Surviving on the Ukrainian front line. That's what we're going to talk about today. I want to talk about some of my experiences, little tips and tricks that I found while I was out there on the front that would be very helpful if I knew before I got out there. Before we get started, do me a favor, drop a like, sub, do all that stuff. I want to get this channel monetized, and we're actually relatively close, and that's all because of you guys. Thank you so much. The more people we can reach with this information that actually is thinking about going to Ukraine to fight, the better. Information and knowledge is power. That's all I want to do is spread that. Also, AC still broken upstairs. No shirt. Sorry about it. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Let's say you already joined the International Legion. You went and did your training at the training base, 6, 7, 8 weeks of that. Then they tell you you're going to deploy. Then you head out to your actual position on the front line. To my knowledge and from my experience, most positions that are out there are abandoned either villages, cities, little towns that Ukrainian units and also Legion elements take over, and that's what they call their safe house, safe village, their safe area. Put it in quotations because it is anything but safe. But that's where you will be living for the next X amount of time until you rotate back into the city and have some time for leave. Most of these positions are anywhere from like 5 kilometers to 10 kilometers away from the actual conflict, like where people are fighting, the actual trench lines. So in the grand scheme of things, these safe houses or safe villages are still extremely close to danger. To give you a little perspective on this of what I mean by how dangerous it is, when I got to the front line, I had a platoon commander. My platoon commander went out into his garden, his yard of the house that's in the safe village. I believe he was smoking or on the phone or doing both. He had no idea that there had been a drone above his house, his safe house, waiting for him to come out, dropped a grenade. Grenade landed next to him. He caught a piece of shrapnel through the neck. He bled out in about 40 seconds. Just like that, my platoon had no more commander. Again, this was not on a mission. This was not on an operation. We were back at the safe village, refueling, re-gearing, getting ready to go on operations and missions, and this happened. So this leads me to rule number 1 when you're on the front. Again, what I'm referring to right now is your safe village or your safe houses. Rule number 1 is always wear your gear anytime you leave the house. It sounds ridiculous. It probably sounds obnoxious and annoying to do, and trust me, it is. When you're in the dead of sleep and you wake up at 3 a.m. to go pee, and the last thing you want to do is put on your plate carrier and your helmet to walk out the back door to go piss in the yard. But it is crucial. The enemy will take any chance they can get when you're vulnerable, and they will take advantage of it, just like they did with my platoon commander. That's rule number 1, always wear your gear when you leave the house, even if it's just going to piss. Rule number 2, extremely important, always have some kind of a line of communication with the Ukrainian elements, Ukrainian units in your vicinity. With the Legion, you will most likely always be either attached to or stationed right next to 1, 2, 3 different Ukrainian brigades, infantry, armor, mechanized, whatever it is. It's extremely important to always have communications with them for multiple reasons. Number 1, when you start taking incoming, you need to make sure it's not friendly fire. There's multiple times while we were out there where we noticed the Russians are this way, but we heard the artillery coming from behind us. We'd radio in, hey, is that you guys? They'd say, yes. We'd say, that you're hitting us. Accidents do happen. There's confusion in war. It's not their fault. It's not our fault. Just make sure that you have the line of communication so you can squash it before anybody gets hurt. Also, just because your safe house or safe village is 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers away from the nearest trench line, that does not mean the Russians have not made an advance or a push that the Ukrainians have not seen, and that they can't run right up into your village. Have an emergency station or whatever it is on your radio system so you can say, hey, we got bad guys, they're here, or hey, we've got some people we don't recognize, everybody be aware. Communication is the utmost importance in a combat situation. There's so much confusion, you need to have clear comms. Okay, rule number 3, I learned this pretty quickly while we were on the front. You're gonna be in a house, most likely an abandoned Ukrainian house or an apartment or something like this. Always make sure to remove all the glass out of all the windows. Remove the glass from the windows and then block the windows with some softer material, some padding. Now hear me out. The reason I say this is because if you do take incoming, which you will, probably daily, Russians are dropping such large ordnance so often that the glass will break. And we had multiple occasions where glass would shatter and actually go into a Legionnaire. It's a pretty simple concept. The glass breaks, shoots into your body. I mean, that's what you don't want. We saw it happen with one of our close buddies in my unit. He ended up being in surgery for almost a year. It's bad. When I first arrived to my safe house position, I was wondering why there were stuffed animals stuffed in all the windows. And then I asked, they told me, and then I also learned later on what had happened with one of our buddies who took glass shrapnel. Number 4, dig a foxhole in your yard. What I mean by that is dig some kind of a deep hole or trench or bunker scenario in the yard of your safe house. In case you do take some serious incoming, you're probably going to be safer in that hole than you are hiding under the bed in this dilapidated abandoned house. I have a couple pictures, hopefully I can find them here, but of my buddy Cookie, who I was out on the front with, who spent the majority of his time in the safe village sitting in his foxhole, because that's how often that they were shelling the safe village. So again, rule number 4, dig a foxhole, dig a bunker, a trench, something in the yard of your safe house just for some extra security if you get some real serious shelling. All right, rule number 5, I'll leave it at this. We'll just do 5 of them today. And this rule is always keep your eyes to the sky. Keep your eyes up looking for drones. If you have somehow found my channel, that means you're somewhat interested in this conflict that's going on, which also means you know how serious drones are out there. There's 100 different kinds and they're all dangerous. One of the sketchiest things about the drones is you don't always know if they're friendly or they're enemy, which leads us back to rule number 3, to always be in communication with the Ukrainian units. Something I learned about the drones out there is I could never see them. I was always looking out kind of over the horizon like you would for an incoming aircraft, right? But the Ukrainians would say, that's not how you look for drones. You look directly up. You look straight up. You don't look out, you look straight up. I didn't realize that. When I started doing that more often, because you can hear them, they sound like bumblebees, right? You can hear when drones come around, you look straight up, you'll see them. They're up there, directly above you, watching. So again, instead of looking out, look up. So that's 5 of what I consider to be very important tips to survival on the front line. Again, at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. I've said this in almost every video. There's so much indirect artillery and mortar and missile fire. If one of those has your name on it, it's going to have your name on it. No amount of observation skills or situational awareness is going to save you. If it's got your name, it's got your name. I quickly learned that indirect fire out there on the front line is the great equalizer. What I mean by that, and I've mentioned this before, but you can have all the skills in the world. You can be a certified John Wick, Chris Kyle sniper, Marcus Luttrell Navy SEAL badass, but you can get blown up randomly the same way this other guy can who has none of those same skills. There was more than one occasion where we would just be hanging out in the safe village waiting to go on mission, and there'd be a snap or a crack or a whistle. No idea where the shot came from, no idea if it's friendly or if it's enemy. Anything can happen, and those shots sometimes can connect. It's the fucking Wild West out there. There are no rules, and people die daily. People that you know and that you are going to go out to the front line with will die. I've had multiple people reach out in emails, which I'm grateful for, and I'll give you all the information that you need, but I can't in good conscience give you that information without making it very clear here in my videos that going there is dangerous. The word dangerous doesn't even do it justice. And remember, there is no shame in showing up, going through training, or getting to Ukraine and realizing, hey, this is not for me. I'm going to pack it up and go home. There's no shame in that. The fact that you went there at all and you had the heart to want to help, you had the balls to even show up in Ukraine, respect. But if your gut's telling you, hey, this isn't for me, trust your gut. Trusting my gut saved me a number of times out there. So that got a little depressing at the end there, but I love you guys. I hope this was somewhat informative. Keep emailing me, keep sharing and sharing these videos and liking. Thank you again. I love you guys. I'll catch you tomorrow.